Greetings friends, and welcome to Captain Samuel's Electric Leisure Dome. In my introduction video, I shared that the Atari 2600 deserves some love on this channel. When I was a kid, my cousin, who was a few decades older than me, saw how much I loved my Game Gear and playing video games. Being an awesome and benevolent dude, he gave me his old Atari 2600 and a huge box of games for when he was a kid. I usually only received a handful of Game Gear games per year, so to get a box stuffed with games all at once was awesome. It was fun to pop in a game, try it out for a few minutes, and then move on to the next one. Atari 2600 games were so primordial, so bizarre, and sometimes unplayably cryptic. Many of them, however, were fun. I came to appreciate the old Atari 2600 and discovered that since not many other people did, the games were cheap. In high school, I bought a ton of additional games from a classmate for practically nothing, and my local game store sells them for cheap because they tend to languish on the shelf until I buy them. Today we will be looking at 3 games I enjoyed as a youth and continue to play today, sharing this enthusiasm with my kids. We will be covering 3 games in one video, and covering them a bit more briefly than I usually do, because that's the way I experienced Atari games. Pop in a cart, try it out for a little while, then pop in a different cart to see what the next strange and antediluvian gaming experience will be. Today's games will be Phoenix, Dragonfire, and Bowling. Yes, bowling. Trust me, it's good, especially if you have little kids. We'll get to that, but for now, let's start by taking a look at Phoenix. So, I don't have the boxes for any of these games. In fact, the concept of Atari 2600 games having boxes at all seems strange to me, as I mostly think of them as loose carts. I'll be using image scans of the boxes in this video taken from AtariAge.com. I did buy manuals for all the games in this video because image scans for some of the manuals weren't on that website. I do have the box for Phoenix, however. Well, sort of. This is from my girlfriend's childhood collection. Somebody cut out just the back of the box and kept it. The story is space-age hilarity. It recounts the history of the Phoenix in various world cultures in a surprising amount of detail. For example, this legendary bird is a symbol of immortality and spiritual rebirth in many cultures. The Egyptians saw the myth as a symbol of the life cycle of the sun.
Very astute.
After this detailed cultural and historical context, suddenly the last few sentences are about how nuclear fallout has mutated the Phoenix, and now the mutated Phoenix has become the ally of aliens that are invading Earth? Plus, the back of the box says Phoenix is the name of the ship you pilot. Whatever, it doesn't make sense, but that artwork is cool. The manual then describes the controls, your capabilities as the player, and some of the enemies you will face. It's all done in color with a bright layout. I like it. One downside, however, is that there are no alternate gameplay modes or difficulty settings. The manual makes some excuses for this. Since Phoenix is difficult enough as it is, the difficulty switches have no effect. I find this game fun but easy, so the absence of additional gameplay or difficulty settings is a letdown. In fact, Phoenix's rival game, Demon Attack, even has a 2-player co-op mode. Reading the manual also revealed the answer to a mystery for me. I always found the second wave of small birds easier than the rest of the game. I would shoot them out of the sky quickly and beat that level faster than any other stage in the game. It turns out that only during the second wave of small birds, your laser cannon is fully automatic, and for every other wave, it's semi-automatic. Why? What an odd design choice. I love old Atari 2600 games, they're all over the place. There's a lot else to love about the gameplay of Phoenix. I love the way it controls. The joystick moves the player back and forth quickly. Nothing feels sloppy, it all feels precise and tight. I enjoy how each level feels different. It's a fun gimmick that you need to hit the larger birds in the center or they just regenerate their wings. I appreciate that there's a boss fight as the final wave. The UFO slowly descends dropping bombs, and you need to shoot away the armor beneath the alien pilot. The blue layer of armor rotates, which requires timing to get a shot through a gap to hit the alien pilot. There's several tactics you can use to approach this boss fight, adding a bit of depth to the game. The sound is decent, provided you turn off the shrill, trilling bird noises with the selector switch. The explosion sound when you destroy the boss UFO is particularly satisfying. After you beat the UFO, the game cycle repeats. That being said, in playing Phoenix again for this review, and thinking more critically about it, I realize it's not the perfect 2600 game I thought it was when I was a kid. The reason for this change is that I realize now just how easy the game is, and this is a problem because there's no way to increase the difficulty with the switches. I don't feel challenged by it until the third or fourth cycle through the game. The strength of many 2600 games is how many options they have for different gameplay variations and difficulty settings. So for Phoenix to just have a single mode of difficulty and no variations on play feels like a letdown. Oh well, otherwise this is still a great game. I give it an A. Now let's take a look at Dragonfire. This was a game I bought from a kid at school for 25 cents along with a bunch of other games. This game stood out from the rest. Imagic made some creative and fun games for the 2600, and right away the quality shows in the box and manual. I love the silver box with the iridescent dragon. If I owned the actual box, I would absolutely make it a display piece. The manual is designed so that when it is opened, it looks like a castle sprawling across both pages. The story, control, and gameplay modes are all accompanied with plenty of screenshots from the game. The entire presentation is colorful and vibrant. I especially love the picture of all the treasure you can steal from the dragons because of how colorful it is and the adorable pixel art. I'm glad I bought the manual because now I finally know what the items are. Another reason I'm glad to own the manual after all these years is because of the handy chart that shows each gameplay mode. When playing an Atari game, I usually just blindly flip the switches and fumble around to see what changes. Now I actually see what everything does. You can start at the later dragons to challenge yourself sooner in the gameplay loop, and there's also a 2-player mode. One player goes until the other player completes a treasure room or runs out of all their lives. Finally, check out this proof of purchase seal on the back of the manual, featuring the same goofy yet epic scintillating rainbow dragon from the box art. I'm official, folks. I've got my proof of purchase right here. 25 cents well spent. The gameplay of Dragonfire is fast. Gameplay is divided into 2 sections, the castle moat and the castle interior. Fireballs come from the castle at 2 different heights, and the player needs to dodge the fireballs to enter the castle. The fireball pattern is random, and sometimes they launch in a tight pattern where you need to duck and then immediately jump while ducking. That's an athletic character right there. He can jump while kneeling on the ground and still keeping his knees bent. Once inside the castle, you can move the player in all directions while a dragon paces back and forth at the bottom of the screen. Once you emerge from the castle doorway, the dragon begins breathing fireballs towards the player. The exit doorway appears after the player grabs all the treasures on screen. The manual suggests continual movement, and that tactic works well. Grabbing the treasures requires a circular flowing movement. I give Dragonfire an A. I love the frenetic action of Dragonfire, and the game is generous with lives to keep the action going. Multiple starting dragons to adjust the difficulty and a 2-player alternating mode make this a hot pick for the 2600. Now let's take a look at bowling. Now personally, I do not care about or enjoy sports games except on the Atari 2600. That's because sports games on the Atari are simple and only vaguely resemble a sport. The lack of realism means they are less like a sport and more like a video game. I'd also like to say that if you enjoy sports games, that's cool and there's nothing wrong with that. They're just not a genre that I'm into. Again, except on the Atari 2600, where I have plenty of sports games I enjoy. The box art of bowling has a few different variations. The Atari version features a man with a classic 1970s mustache. The Sears telegame system has an African-American woman on the cover, which I found a pleasant surprise. European Americans are overwhelmingly the ones represented in gaming-related media from that era, so it was nice to see some diversity. I also discovered a third cover variant from an unknown publisher. Ironically, it has the best cover art. I love this dude's wide-mouthed expression of excitement, shock and fear as he hits a strike. I also love the poorly translated back of the box. My favorite line is, "All regulations are the same as the actuality." Whoa, that's deep, man. Speaking of profound statements immune to human understanding, let's jump straight to the scoring section of the manual. I've owned this game since I was a kid, and I have never understood the scoring system. All I can tell is that a perfect score is 300. I was hoping that when I read the manual for this review, the enigmatic scoring system would become clear to me. However, I am more confused than ever. Ahem. Scoring. You have the possibility of scoring from 0 to 30 points in each frame. However, the difference in your score depends on whether you strike, spare, or leave an open frame. For instance, in an open frame, the number of pins you pick up for both rolls is simply added to your running score. However, when you pick up all the pins on the second roll for a spare, your running score is not told immediately. Instead, the roll, the number of pins you pick up plus 10 because it's 10 points in the entry score. If you strike the top frame, the sub pins you pick up for the next two rolls, and every you roll twice, your running score is not total until after the next two rolls
are added to your total score.
Got that? I don't. I think that's part of why I don't enjoy sports. I feel like the rules should be simple and everyone knows them except me, so I feel like a dummy for not understanding sports rules. Then I just avoid them altogether to deal with the embarrassment. Anyways, the scoring of bowling might be complex, but the gameplay is beautifully simple. You move the joystick up or down to move the bowler up or down. To roll the ball, press the button. It's so simple that bowling is a great game to play with young kids. There's no rush as they get a feel for the controls and play a video game for the first time. When you get a spare or strike, the screen flashes, the tune plays, and the bowler jumps up and down. It's a fun little display of jubilance that my kids really enjoy. It has a 2-player mode and each player takes turns. There's a few game variations too. Normally after you throw the ball, you can press the joystick up or down to curve the ball once. You can also play 2 other variations where you can't curve the ball after it is thrown, or you can curve it back and forth as much as you want. The unlimited curving option is a real treat because it's like your bowler has telekinetic powers and can move the ball with their mind as it rolls along. How many AAA sports games on modern systems have telekinetic athletes? I'm telling you, sports games on the 2600, it's where it's at. Bowling gets an A from me as well. So there you have it. 3 quick reviews for 3 games I enjoy on the Atari 2600. It was nice to show this system some love on my channel. Fortunately, the Atari 2600 gets plenty of love on YouTube and has an active fan community making modern homebrew games. So now I need to get back to making videos for a system I love that is far less appreciated and featured on YouTube, the Sega Game Gear. So I'll see you next time for a Game Gear game review. Thanks for watching.